Hello there, welcome to the Nightline.
Thank you for joining us. I am Razi Ahmad.
And I'm Shira Abul Mansoor. Let's get right into the news. Razi?
Yes, ma'am. The State Welfare Department is fully prepared to face the flood season. Minister of Welfare, Community Wellbeing, Women, Family and Childhood Development, Dato Sri Fatimah Abdullah said the ministry also emphasizes the necessary COVID-19 standard operating procedures. As now we are in the monsoon season, Fatimah said her ministry is prepared to liaise with the Sarawak Disaster Management Committee (SDMC) to help flood victims. She further said the victims will receive assistance in the form of food and relocating them to temporary flood relief centres.
Khusus untuk banjir ini, persiapan yang telah dibuat iaitu bekalan bantuan makanan di pangkalan hadapan, forward base we call it. Pangkalan hadapan dan kawasan mangsa yang tidak berpindah. So ada tempat di mana memang di situlah bekalan makanan disimpan dan khas untuk kawasan yang mana mangsanya tidak berpindah. Mereka berada di situ, tidak pergi ke pusat pemindahan.
On the SOPs, she said the evacuees will have to adhere to physical distancing, practice good personal hygiene, and the evacuation centres will be sanitized. She added that previously cooking is allowed at evacuation centres and cooking utensils are provided. But due to the current pandemic, it is not allowed. Dato Sri Fatimah Abdullah also said there are volunteers ready to help out at any time. Not just during floods, she added they also help old folks who live alone, helping the disabled to buy necessities and clean their homes and many more.
Mereka ini memang dalam rekod kita dan memang menjalankan aktiviti sukarela pada waktu biasa pun. Tidak semestinya waktu banjir, tapi pada waktu biasa misalnya mereka membantu warga emas yang tinggal sendirian ya, untuk membantu OKU kan, membantu misalnya dari segi membeli barang-barang, doing the groceries buying the groceries untuk mereka kan, menolong membersih kawasan kan ya, di rumah tersebut. So ini adalah antara aktiviti iaitu sukarelawan kebajikan ya, waktu biasa. Dan mereka ini juga siap sedia untuk iaitu dilibatkan masa banjir nanti.
The introduction of Malaysia Muda or My Muda is one of the government's initiatives to revive the nation's economics. According to Chief Minister Datuk Patinggi Abang Joritun Openg, the main objective of My Muda is to assist industrial and business entrepreneurs during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thus, the implementation of My Muda is aimed to achieve 25% or equivalent to RM 10 billion reduction in compliant costs in the public sector.
Abang Jory said this, whose text of speech was read by Deputy Chief Minister Dato' Amar Awang Tengah Ali Hassan at the launching ceremony of Sarawak Productive My Muda via webinar organised by MPC Sarawak and EPU Sarawak. He added some of the issues have been settled under My Muda. The issues include the issuance of export permits for floriculture and processed food, issuance of release letter by respective technical agency on Certificate of Completion and Compliance, CCC, issuance of chicken licenses related to the construction of modern chicken farm, and release of regulation requirements for license operators. For the record, the government has introduced the National Economic Recovery Plan, Penjana, on June 5, 2020, as a fourth-level strategy, rehabilitation in Malaysia in facing the COVID-19 pandemics. However, the Sarawak government has learned on the role to facilitate post-COVID-19 rehabilitation in the state with the establishment of Sarawak Economic Action Council, SEAC, on May 6, 2020.
In a bid to increase appreciation of the green lifestyle among Malaysians, all state governments have expressed support for the implementation of the No Plastic Bag campaign. The implementation of the initiative aimed to address the pollution problem caused by single-use plastics. TVS has dived into the views from the members of the public on this campaign. Cheryl Shamina has the report.
In line with the implementation of the Malaysia roadmap towards the use of no plastic bags, we aim to curb the usage of disposable plastic waste and move on to alternatives that are more environmentally friendly. Wondering why I'm placing my items in this grocery bag?
Just recently, members of the 76th National Council Meeting for Local Government, MNKT, have approved the proposed paper for the implementation of the No Plastic Bag campaign by local authorities, PBT, as proposed by the Ministry of Environment and Water, CASA. MNKT has also agreed to approve its implementation at all premises nationwide by imposing a minimum charge of 20 cents for each plastic bag requested by customers at the payment counter based on the user pay principle. The imposition of this charge is based on the user pay principle, which aims to avoid the use of disposable plastic. Deputy Minister of Environment and Water, Dato' Dr. Ahmad Masrizal Muhammad, had said that the campaign would be carried out in 2 phases. Namely, Phase 1 will be from December 2020 to 2021, with the implementation focused on permanent premises such as supermarkets, hypermarkets, convenience stores, food restaurants, petrol stations, chain stores, and pharmacies. While Phase 2 of the campaign would be extended to other types of business premises, including wet markets, night markets, and farmers' markets by the year 2022 to 2025. This collection needs to be handed over to the local authority to be used for environmental sustainability, which aims to avoid the use of disposable plastic.
For us here, actually, we have started this eco green bag since last year. So I think it's a good start for us as a supermarket to encourage people to actually come to shop by bringing this eco bag. That will help us to reduce by giving out this plastic bag. Indirectly, we're trying to educate people. So for the long term wise, I hope that more people would actually be part of this go green and eco bag thing so that we will not have more waste on this plastic. I would say that not only the department store need to carry out these encouragements. I think the policies, whether it's from the councils or from the authority, have to empower this a little bit more, give pressure to players like retailers or supermarket and things like that, to make sure that they enforce this thing or they implement it, because people or community tends to be too complacent. They do not really think of when they want to go shop, oh, I must to carry my eco bag. They just go and then they're expecting that the thing is all provided, whether it's eco or it's a plastic. It's like it's a must-have for them. So I would say that the education has to start from very beginning or even in school for that matters, so that the people will start to, even the kids can remind the parents when you go shopping, hey, bring your eco bag. So I think that is a good start, because we have to start from somewhere. But if we are just waiting for like people to initiate themselves, it may take ages for people to change their mindset. So I think that the enforcement, the authorities from the top should carry out more on this particular thing and emphasize from the top to bottom, and especially to a bigger player like supermarket or hypermarket or bigger retailer. From there, they can show a good example, and then the rest for like the smaller grocery shop, they should eventually go into that, and then we go by phase by phase.
I see as a public, I see this campaign is a good one. It's because we can less down on the plastic waste. Because if we less down on plastic waste, our marine ecosystem will be better than right now. Because right now, the ocean is full of plastic bags. Then I think government go launch this activity is a good one. Okay, because some policy they have the no plastic bag, no polystyrene, no straw campaign every weekend or somehow.
As we can see, permanent premises like departmental stores have already implemented this action plan to reduce the usage of disposable plastic bags. In every payment counter here, a woven bag or an eco-friendly bag is provided for purchase for customers to enjoy a more environmental friendly experience.
Welcome back. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC launched the Putrajaya Vision 2040 on Friday, November 20th. The vision was unveiled at the virtual APEC Economic Leaders Meeting by Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, who chaired the meeting.
Now, before we conclude, I wish to reiterate the core of the Putrajaya Vision, which is an open, dynamic, resilient, and peaceful Asia-Pacific community by 2040 for the prosperity of all our people and future generations. Let us now work in solidarity to achieve this vision. Together, as an APEC family, we can accomplish this.
The fresh vision replaced the Bogor goals that were announced in 1994 when APEC leaders met in Bogor, Indonesia, and adopted for the long-term goal of free and open trade and investment in the region. During his speech broadcast live on television, Muhyiddin and other leaders held up the vision document to symbolize their adoption. Earlier, Muhyiddin handed over the chairmanship to New Zealand. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern delivered quick remarks, followed by a short video on New Zealand as the next host. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said that the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation has pledged to refrain from backtracking and resorting to protectionist measures to keep markets and borders open. The APEC 2020 chair said this included ensuring the smooth cross-border movement of essential goods, including food, medicines, and medical supplies, as well as other necessities during the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure an unobstructed supply chain within the region.
And APEC's immediate priority, of course, is to ensure the readiness of the health, medical care institution to provide critical treatment as well as to manage public health policies to contain the spread of COVID-19. From the economic perspective, the impact has been severely devastating, with a significant number of companies and businesses going into distress or even folding. And furthermore, the region has seen a record number of job loss.
Muhyiddin pointed out that the colossal impact of the pandemic upon APEC economies might result in regional growth declining by 2.7% in 2020, making it the most significant drop since the near-zero growth rate recorded in 2009 during the global financial crisis. At a virtual media conference during the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, Muhyiddin also commented that APEC's work this year had been focused on the importance of economic recovery post-COVID-19 pandemic. He added that APEC leaders also recognized the critical need of those most impacted by the pandemic and the need to empower economic sectors. The APEC 2020 meetings in Kuala Lumpur had been a pivoting point for the organization as it moved beyond the agenda of the Bogor goals, focusing only on trade and investment. The Prime Minister also welcomes the contribution of additional resources across APEC to combat the pandemic and support workers as well as sectors through the economic recovery process. As for the COVID-19 vaccine, he noted that all APEC leaders had noted their commitment to collaborate and support each other for equitable access to the vaccine. The theme for this year's APEC 2020 meeting is optimizing human potential towards a resilient future of shared prosperity, pivot, prioritized in guiding the development and implementations of key policies.
The Ministry of Health Malaysia MOH conducts a risk assessment taking into account 5 factors before recommending the implementation of a Conditional Movement Control Order CMCO in certain areas. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said the factors taken into account were the rate of increase in cases, the distribution of positive cases, population density, the existence of public hotspots, and the socio-demographic conditions of the population.
Sebelum Kementerian Kesihatan mengesyorkan sesuatu kawasan dilaksanakan PKPD, penilaian risiko dilakukan dengan mengambil kira beberapa faktor, iaitu yang pertama, kadar peningkatan kes. Peningkatan ketara bilangan kes COVID-19 terutamanya jika berlaku dalam tempoh yang singkat. Yang kedua ialah taburan kes positif, taburan kes dalam mukim dan daerah yang terlibat dan sama ada terdapat tumpuan di kawasan-kawasan tertentu seperti penjara ataupun pusat tahanan sementara. Faktor ketiga ialah kepadatan penduduk. Kepadatan penduduk setempat yang tinggi dengan bilangan kawasan perumahan, pangsapuri ataupun rumah setinggan yang tinggi. Yang keempat ialah faktor kewujudan tempat tumpuan awam, kewujudan tempat-tempat seperti pasar borong, kilang, pejabat kerajaan, kompleks perniagaan dan sebagainya. Dan yang terakhir ialah keadaan sosiodemografi penduduk. Keadaan sosiodemografi penduduk setempat sama ada terdapat penempatan warga asing dan juga pergerakan penduduk keluar masuk yang banyak.
He said this during the daily press conference of COVID-19 updates on Friday. Earlier, Senior Minister Security Cluster Datuk Seri Ismail Yaakob announced that Kelantan will be subjected to the CMCO from November 21st until December 6 due to the increase in the number of new COVID-19 cases in the state. Dr. Nur Hisham said risk assessments have also been conducted in other states to determine whether the CMCO can be lifted or should be continued. He added, although the CMCO has been lifted in several states, there is a need to extend the period in some districts as the risk assessment shows that the risk of infection is still high in those areas.
Citizens of 23 countries banned into Malaysia can now enter the country to meet their local spouses, but on one condition: they must obtain permission from the Malaysian Immigration Department. Senior Minister of Security Cluster Dato' Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the exemption was given to the group even though the country had not opened its borders to those countries.
Tetapi dari segi pasangan warga negara kita, ya, kita benarkan. Benarkan. Saya dah sebut beberapa kali, mereka hanya perlu memohon kebenaran daripada pihak immigration melalui My Travel Pass. Just pohon daripada My Travel Pass dan biasanya akan diberikan kebenaran. Ya, inilah. Tapi kena ikut peraturan lah. Kena kuarantin 14 hari, bayaran kuarantin perlu mereka bayar.
In September, Malaysia imposed an entry ban on citizens of 22 countries due to a spike in COVID-19 cases in those countries. The countries are the United States, Brazil, India, Russia, Peru, Colombia, South Africa, Mexico, Spain, Argentina, Chile, Iran, the United Kingdom, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, France, Turkey, Italy, Germany, Iraq, the Philippines, and Indonesia. Meanwhile, Ismail Sabri said so far, the government has not planned to make it compulsory for those from the red zones areas who wish to travel to green zones to undergo COVID-19 swab test.
Singapore will be tightening its border measures given the resurgence of cases in Malaysia. According to Singapore's Ministry of Health, all travellers entering Singapore from November 22nd, 2020 who have a travel history, including transit in the past 14 days to Malaysia, will be required to serve a 14-day stay-at-home notice (SHN) at dedicated facilities.
In a statement, the ministry said this also applies to travellers entering Singapore to work under the Periodic Commuting Arrangement (PCA) and returning Singapore-based travellers under the Singapore-Malaysia Reciprocal Green Lane or RGL. The MOH had earlier announced that travellers from Malaysia are allowed to serve a 7-day stay-at-home notice at their place of residence, except from Sabah, who are required to serve a 14-day SHN at dedicated facility. The ministry added that all travellers entering Singapore from 12 p.m. on November 27, 2020, who had a travel history in the past 14 days to Malaysia, will be required to take a COVID-19 test polymerase chain reaction or PCR test within 72 hours of departure. The ministry reminded travellers of the need for them to present a valid negative COVID-19 test result as a condition of approval to enter Singapore. Hello and welcome back. A 16-year-old girl who succumbed to rabies on November 11 is the latest and sixth victim to die from the disease in Sarawak this year. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said the case is the 28th since the rabies outbreak was declared in Sarawak on July 31, 2017.
Dr. Nur Hisham in a statement said the teenager died at 3:45 p.m. at the Sarawak General Hospital. The deceased was confirmed to be infected with the rabies virus following laboratory tests conducted by the Medical Research Institute (IMR) on November 12. He said death due to rabies infection could be prevented by washing the body part bitten by the animal with running water and soap for 15 minutes to get rid of traces of saliva and seeking immediate medical treatment. Dr. Nur Hisham said the Health Ministry and the State Health Department would continue to monitor the rabies situation in Sarawak, namely to share the latest related information with Sarawak Veterinary Services Department, DVS, and TVS Malaysia in ensuring rabies prevention and control measures are implemented promptly and comprehensively. The Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission (MCMC) reminded members of the public today to be wary of fake accounts created on social media for the purpose of fraud and sedition. According to MCMC, new accounts are frequently set up to prevent detection by the authorities or to avoid disclosure by victims of previous fraud cases.
In a statement, the MCMC provided some examples on how to identify these fake accounts, with one of them being the account having only been activated in the past few months. The names of the account owners do not seem real, with personal information and biodata portrayed by pseudonyms or famous people provided that seem dubious and unrealistic. According to the MCMC, these fake accounts would have a short list of friends or none at all, having the list of friends that could be fake. Fake accounts can also be identified through too many likes by others on various topics and groups, but very few likes on their own page. As such, cybercriminals had also been found to use various slick tactics to carry out fraud, some using the profiles of family members, acquaintances of victims, dignitaries or individuals, as well as famous companies. It is also highlighted that the MCMC, police and other related agencies can take legal action towards the misuse of the internet and social media for criminal or seditious purposes. In light of this matter, it is also advised to the public to refrain from discussing sensitive issues related to religion, race, the royal institution, and politics, which owners of these fake accounts will try to instigate to protect themselves from legal action. The Royal Malaysian Air Force RMAF on Friday mounted a mercy flight to transport 3 babies with heart problems from Kuching, Sarawak for immediate treatment at the National Heart Institute, IJN, and a private hospital in Kuala Lumpur.
RMAF Public Relations Division in a statement recently said that 3 babies had previously undergone treatment at the Sarawak General Hospital. One of the babies, 20-day-old Eliora Mianawan, suffers from transposition of the great arteries, a serious but rare heart defect, and will undergo treatment at the Gleneagles Hospital in Ampang. While the other 2 babies are 19-day-old Mary and Matthew Maverick, who suffers from congenital heart block, and 2-month-old Abang Muhammad Al-Fatih Abang Muhammad, who suffers from congenital heart disease. Both will undergo treatment at the IJN. RMAF also said that all 3 babies were accompanied by their mothers and were flown in an A400M aircraft from its number 22 squadron, which is located at the Subang Air Base. The plane took off from the Kuching Air Base and landed at the Subang Air Base at about 7:07 p.m., piloted by Major Muhammad Shafiq Muhammad Amin and assisted by co-pilot Captain Wan Abdullah Wan Hanapi and 4 crew members. Also accompanying them were medical officers and personnel from the Sarawak General Hospital. The Personal Data Protection Department, PDPD, has opened investigation papers on 6 unlicensed money-lending apps that are suspected of misusing personal data. The 6 applications are AsiaLand, Dreamland, iPayFriend, iPinjaman, Helpline for You, and GoCash for You.
PDPD in a statement said that the investigation papers were opened under Section 5 of the Personal Data Protections Act 2010, Act 709, with the assistance of the Cybersecurity Malaysia and the Malaysian Communications Multimedia Commission, MCMC. If found guilty, the 6 entities' data users can be fined not more than 300,000 ringgit or jailed not more than 2 years or both. PDPD advises Malaysians to be more careful when applying for loans online, especially when giving downloaded apps permission to access information to avoid personal data being misused by irresponsible parties. Those who are interested to apply for online loans are advised to check with the Housing and Local Government Ministry Credit Community Control Division to verify the registration status of the online money lending app.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration's outside advisors will meet on December 10 to discuss whether to authorize the COVID-19 vaccine developed by Pfizer and German partner BioNTech for emergency use. The move comes after Pfizer applied for the authorization of its COVID-19 vaccine earlier in the day, the first such application in a major step towards providing protection against the new coronavirus.
FDA Commissioner Stephen Hunt said the FDA will review the request as expeditiously as possible. The meeting of Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee will discuss the safety and effectiveness of the vaccine candidate. The FDA is not obligated to abide by its advisory panel recommendations, but typically does. Hunt said the agency has been preparing for the review of emergency use authorization for COVID-19 vaccines for several months and stands ready to do so as soon as a request is submitted. The FDA intends to make background materials available to the public, including the meeting agenda and committee roster, no later than 2 business days prior to the meeting. And that concludes the Nightline.
Thank you for joining us. I am Razi Ahmad.
And I'm Shira Abong Mansour. We'll see you next time.
Have a good night.